Okay, we're not to solve that problem now. It's 9 o'clock, councillors. So we'll begin our meeting. Welcome everyone to the February meeting of Kempsey Shire Council. I know this is the first meeting for 2020. So welcome to our community members and visitors, guests. Ruby, I can just see you. Welcome. And any staff that are joining us this morning. For anyone that's joining us for the first time, the motions that are being debated will be on the screens in front of you. This is an open meeting of council for the public to observe council in its decision-making process. Everyone, including guests in the gallery, please check that your mobile phones are turned to silent and your electronic devices. It's the requirement that I state to all present that Kempsey Shire Council's Code of Meeting Practice includes live streaming, and your attendance at this meeting is taken as consent to the possibility that your image and or voice may be recorded and broadcast via our live stream. And also be aware, according to Council's Code of Meeting Practice, in regard to any audio or visual recordings of the meeting, prior permission must be sought to the meeting, and the decision to allow must be a unanimous decision of the committee or council. Morning tea is approximately at 10:30, and everyone is welcome to join us so that you can talk to the councillors when we're having morning tea and staff. Before I go into the meeting proper, there's just a couple of things that aren't on the agenda that I'd like to do prior. One is we received a certificate of appreciation from Team Rumicom before they left, who were here to help us with the fires. It's to Kempsey Shire Council, so I'd like to present that to the Acting General Manager. And I'd also like to mention that one of our staff members, Ron Kemsley, was awarded the Public Service Medal this year in the Australia Day Awards. I think that is worth noting, if we can note that prior to the meeting, the opening prayer. This is a really prestigious... Yes, we can give him a clap. I know Ron's not in chambers this morning, but the Public Service Medal is a prestigious, internationally recognised award within the Australia's honours and award system. It recognises outstanding service in the public sector, and there's only 100 recipients of that award each year, so it is a very prestigious award. Ron has been with us for 20 years as our Senior Natural Resource Officer, and we know that at South West Rocks the work that he's done around the Boyders Lane area is just so valued across the whole Shire and regionally and probably Australia-wide. So I think that it was appropriate for us to recognise Ken this morning. So welcome, councillors. Our Acting General Manager, Steve Mitchell, Acting Director, Robert Fish. No, he's not. He is our Director. Our Acting Director, Gayleen Burley. And welcome to any councillor staff that are in chambers this morning, and to our viewing public to the February 2020 meeting of Kempsey Shire Council. And we will begin with the opening prayer. Dear Lord, help us in our deliberations today so that our decisions will be for the greater good for the whole of the Kempsey Shire. Amen. And Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Dunghutti people. Apologies and application for leave. We have received an apology and application for leave from Councillor Ashley Williams and also from Councillor Mark Baxter. Thank you. Moved by Councillor McGinn and seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favour of accepting those apologies? That's accepted. Confirmation of minutes. There are minutes of the meeting, the draft minutes. Do I have a mover? Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor McGinn and seconded by Councillor Saul. All in favour of accepting the minutes? Aye. All against? And there's an amendment to the minutes. Councillor, you need to put your light on.
On item, in fact I can't remember the number, I need to go in and get the minutes up. I've written down the details, but not the item number. I think it was 9.4, but I'm not 100% sure. It was the one in regards to the holiday parks. I'd like to move an amendment that there be an addition prior to Council going into meeting of the whole, that Councillor Patterson moved and Councillor McGinn seconded a motion to defer the matter until after Council held a workshop, until March, and that Council hold a workshop and a site visit. I then moved an amendment, which was the text that was resolved, which should be moved Councillor Morris, seconded Councillor Saul, and the amendment is the information that was resolved. Council then moved into workshop. Following Council moving into workshop, Councillor McGinn questioned the validity of the amendment, and the Mayor ruled that the amendment was in fact out of order and would be considered as a foreshadowed motion. On coming out of workshop, Councillor Patterson withdrew his original motion, and then it was moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Saul, the foreshadowed motion. That is my amendment. Obviously, the wording of the actual motions need to be included in that in detail. Do I have a seconder?
That's been seconded. Councillors, do you agree? Can you put your minds back? I do believe that went something like that. Councillor Shields.
Thank you. I have no recollection. I don't have specific recollection of that, so I'd find it hard to vote or not to vote without going back through the video. Can we have a comment from staff, possibly?
Yes. Was this raised when the minutes went out?
I don't have this item. There were a number of items that were raised with the minutes. This is not one of the ones I listed. That's not. I can't definitely say it's not one Councillor Morris raised with me though, because I was not in the office and had some scrawled notes on the back of an envelope. But yeah, it hasn't been raised since the agenda went out. I can't comment whether or not that is what happened. I'd need to look at the video to have a look at whether that was the case.
Would you like to move that an amendment that these minutes be deferred?
Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, the comments that I made were taken as a direct transcript from the video last night.
That you saw, but the other councillors haven't.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's available for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor Saul.
Well, Madam Mayor, my comment is relevance. I mean to say we usually adopt the resolutions of council. So what's the point of all this?
Okay, councillors. Do you want to speak for or against, or do you want to move an amendment?
I've moved an amendment.
Do you want to vote?
Yes. Move on.
I'm going to put it to the vote. All in favour of the amendment? All against the amendment? The amendment, yeah, that means you're voting against, in the negative. Okay, moving on. We need to go back to the motion. All in favour of the motion?
Aye.
All against the motion? Councillor, you're abstaining again? You vote for the motion. The minutes have been accepted.
Madam Mayor, may I move an urgency motion, please?
And it is?
It's about the minutes. So that's why I brought it.
Just a moment. It would need to be something that has to be dealt with before the next meeting. Can it
Okay.
wait till the next meeting? Is it urgent?
It's urgent, so you can judge it, and it's your decision whether it's urgent or not, Madam Mayor.
Or whether it can be left to the next
Yes.
meeting?
So my urgency motion is that Council should forward the transcript, the YouTube link and the minutes of the 19th February 2019 to the Office of Local Government, requesting 1, an adjudication on whether the decision to accept the procedural motion was an order, the 15.1, and 2, if not an order, what advice OLG offers to Council to correct this error. And to establish it, I've been handed a transcript of that meeting. At the time I was kind of in shock, but on the YouTube video, Mayor Campbell states item 15.1, letter requesting an investigation at Crescent Head Road interchange, mover. Councillor Horville says yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Campbell says, do I have a seconder before I say any more words? I said, yes, Madam Mayor. Councillor McGinn then says, Madam Mayor, I would like to move a procedural motion. There's a pause and Mayor Campbell says, I will take the procedural motion first. Councillor McGinn, that this item lay on the table. Mayor Campbell, yes, I accept that. The comment has been made. The motion has not been moved. The motion had not been seconded. The mover had not spoken to the motion. There was no item before Council. The procedural motion was not in order, as an item cannot be laid on the table before it is business before Council. Quoting Josky, which was quoted at that meeting, it may be moved on any question or amendment before the Council. It wasn't before the Council, and a motion was moved to put it on the table when it hadn't even been moved. So I'm asking us to send to the Office of Local Government for adjudication on this, Madam Mayor. So I would like you to accept the urgency motion so we can correct the happenings.
I'm just taking some advice here. This was in February 19th, a year ago.
1 year and one.
No, I'm trying to determine if this is urgent and can wait till after the next meeting to be dealt with. Okay, my advice is it's waited for 12 months, it's not urgent. So I don't accept that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, a question, if I may.
Yes, Councillor.
Should the urgency motion be put into the minutes?
Thank
It
you.
would not be our usual practice to place the full text of the motion into the minutes, but certainly the fact that you raised a matter of urgency and the Mayor ruled that it was not urgent would be placed in the minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr Thorogood.
Any disclosure of interest?
Madam Mayor, sorry,
Thank you, Councillor Shields.
Yep. Item 11.4, the Mid North Coast High Performance Centre. So non-pecuniary, non-significant interests, seeing that I'm the council representative of the South West Rock Sport and Rec Association.
Yes. Madam Mayor, I disclose a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest as my two sons play high performance football and would be users of this centre possibly.
Any further disclosures of interest? Thank you, councillors. Items passed by exception. Item number 6. There are. Is there any questions? I put the items by Councillor Horville.
Madam Mayor, could I withdraw 8.1, 9.1, 9.2, 9.4, and I have some questions, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Horville.
The questions are on Midwaste 9.6. Where's that? Anyone know what page it is? 21. Okay. Thank you. On the bottom of the first page, there's some on page 21. There's a, I don't know who can answer this question, Madam Mayor, so you'll have to direct this. It says at the bottom, in the second last dot point, that the chemical clean-out events which can help create a range of meeting places for the community. I'm not too sure how handing in chemicals will result in a meeting place, but I would like to understand how that happens.
It's just taken on notice, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Further questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor. On other matters on page 22, it talks about Midwaste can consolidate member council interest and be more compelling and effective as a group for gain funding, petition improvements and deliver regional outcomes we may not achieve alone. What petition improvements are envisaged, Madam Mayor?
Director? You need to say through the Director. I didn't write the report.
Yeah.
Righto, so through you, Madam Mayor, to whoever
Through the
can answer.
General Manager.
Yes, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, those opportunities would be identified during the year as part of the operation of the Midwaste and with the participating councils. Without having that sort of information in front of me, I don't know if there's any that's actually anticipated at the moment, but those opportunities as they arise
Yes.
would be, whether it's the right word, it's petitioned or lobbied, but that would be dealt with as they present themselves.
Okay. In the actual report, Madam Mayor, it says the Midwaste report said that they've underspent by $188,000. Will this $188,000 be dispersed to all councils on a per capita basis? And if so, how much for Kempsey Shire Council?
Director? On notice?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yeah, we'll come back with a response in relation to that.
Right. In the actual report, Madam Mayor, I have a couple of questions. Getting there. This document cannot be notated, so I had to
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
may I come up with a solution, a suggestion?
Yes, Councillor.
Given that this is a report of Midwaste and not of Kempsey Shire Council, would it be beneficial for us to have a briefing, say, from them directly, where councillors could ask questions, say in a workshop or briefing, as opposed to using the council meeting to ask questions when we don't have the authority or knowledge behind it to answer them?
Would you like to remove that?
I'd like to make a suggestion, perhaps, that instead that we have a briefing from the organisation.
Do you want to do that formally by removing it and adding it as a amendment to the motion, or do you just want to throw it out there for the staff to do?
Well, I think staff can organise it without us having a motion or resolution, and it is a big part of what we do for business, and we outsource this to a joint
So
organisation.
I need to ask Councillor Horval, would he be happy with that, or does he want to continue to ask his questions?
No, Madam Mayor, I was just looking at our involvement as Kempsey Shire Council and what the benefit is to Kempsey Shire Council to be in it. From my reading of it, we're getting great benefits, but I'm just trying to clarify what we're doing as part of the process. So I could hold it off and maybe have a briefing from the General Manager.
So a workshop would be...
Yes, and it appears that the person in charge of Midwaste is an employee of Kempsey Shire Council, so he would be the one that could brief us very well.
So, Madam Mayor, do we need an actual resolution for the workshop, or we just take it on?
No, I believe that we've resolved that.
Thank you.
So that's staying in the block?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes. Questions on development activity and LEP variations. That's 9.7. In the table on page 23, the year-to-date total value is 40.6 million, and in comparison to the previous year, it's nearly a third, only 14.3 million. Can anyone on staff point to why we have so much success in adding value to the Shire?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. There's been a few, I guess, what you'd call major developments which have contributed to that significant increase in the total value of development. Just to a couple of examples of that, as you're aware, you would resolve for the shop top housing at Southwest Rocks, that development application earlier in the year, which was of the in excess of $10 million. And there have also been some other proposals of the order of $5 million of that order, which contribute to that significant increase from what you saw last year.
Thank you, Director. And that's the only question I have on that, Madam Mayor, because I thought it was quite intriguing. We're having success in producing increase in value.
Councillor, next question.
No, it's not a question, it's a procedural motion. On page, well, it is a question. Would Council make 9.7, which is, no, my mistake, 9.8, the Statement of Cash and Investments. There are 6 attachments, 1 page each, and using docs on tap, you've got to go back and forth trying to look at them. Would it be possible to amalgamate it into one document, please?
Yep, through you, Madam Mayor, we
Just a
can
question.
definitely look at that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have withdrawn item number 8.1, 9.1, 9.2 and 9.4. So we've done that. We've got the motion up. It's not on my screen. It's coming. Okay. Okay. So the recommendation contains the following items to be adopted. 9.3, Southwest Rocks alcohol-free zone, the waiving of application fees for the discharge of the public pool backwash water as liquid trade waste, Midwaste annual report, development activity and LEP variations, quarterly snapshot, statement of cash and investment, legal matters, supply and delivery of passenger truck and earth moving tyres, and bulk bitumen emulsion tender assessment. We have a mover. It was moved by Councillor Patterson and seconded by Councillor McGinn. All in favour? All against? That's been carried. Australia Day Award Committee. Do I have, well, someone, I have a mover. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Horble has his light on, so he obviously wanted to change the recommendation.
Yes, I did. I wanted to move a motion thanking you and the other members of the committee, Madam Mayor. Am I the mover, or did you, this amendment, Madam Mayor, could I?
I think that the mover and the seconder would probably accept that as point 2. Yes? No? Who moved it? Councillor Patterson. You accept that as? Yes. Councillor McGinn? Were you the seconder? Who seconded? No, they don't.
No.
So they'll accept point 2? I was over here.
Mover is I'd like to hear if that's all that Councillor Horble wants
Yeah.
to add.
I believe so. Is that it?
Yeah, so I just want to move the amendments. I'll add 2 points, and I've actually emailed them through to Mr. Thorogood. Council commends the report of the Australia Day Committee. Letters be sent by the Deputy Mayor to all committee members, thanking them for the diligence and the work they have done to make Australia Day 2020 an outstanding success.
Can I just add, Councillor, before you go on, those letters have already been sent
From you, or?
from me
Okay.
as
so
chair.
and you've sent a letter to yourself? 'Cause-
No, I sent it to all the Australia Day committee members other than myself.
Okay, so thank you.
And I don't need one.
I think you do, Madam
No,
Mayor.
I
You've done
don't think
such a
so. This is
fantastic job there,
this
I can
is
tell you.
fine.
Okay. Well, if that's already happened, I won't need point 2 on my motion. And
And just as an aside, a letter's also been sent to all the recipients with their citations,
excellent.
and to our ambassador, and to the football club that he represents. Who else did we send letters to? A number of letters have been sent, Councillor.
Bulldogs, yep. Canterbury Bulldogs. Well, could I amend mine? A letter be sent by the Deputy Mayor to the Mayor, thanking her for her diligence.
Madam Mayor, I withdraw my support for that. This is the motion that I go for is item 8.3 Australia 8.1 Australia Day Awards Committee recommendation that the information be noted.
The work's been done.
Work's been done, and I do think Councillor Hallville's ideals are in the right spot, but the work has already been done.
Well,
So
could we show our support for the Mayor's work by acclamation right now, Madam Mayor? You've done a tremendous job. Very good.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam.
All in favour of the recommendation? All against? It's been carried. Because unless, so that this does not come back to council, Councillor Hallville, are you happy that this is the one that goes up? Or before I put the motion, do you want your amendment to be moved?
That the information be noted.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree that it be noted, and I think we've already made
So
clear
you've
done a great
withdrawn
job.
your suggestion of an amendment.
Yeah, I'll withdraw the amendment, Madam Mayor, because
you.
we've dealt with it.
All in favour of the recommendation? All against? That's been carried. Item number 9.
Move that way, Madam Mayor, 9.1.
9.1. Do I have a seconder?
Second that.
Seconded by Councillor Saul. Any dissent on the... No, well, I need a speaker for. All in favour?
Madam Mayor, I had an amendment.
Oh, so we have an amendment?
Yes, I'm just bringing it up now, Madam Mayor. I'll send it to... $9.1 sent.
Notating the progress.
My amendment is that the report is noted. 2, the progress report document be amended and reissued so as to change all 7 references to Macleay Valley to Kempsey Shire, which would be more appropriate. That's my amendment.
Do I have a seconder? The amendment's is lapsed due to no seconder. All in favour, we go back to the original motion. All in favour of the motion. All against. It's been carried. 9.2, the quarterly report. Do I have a mover?
Move that way.
Second that, Madam Mayor.
It's been moved by Councillor Shields, seconded by Councillor Patterson. You've got a question, Councillor Hall. Will you have your light on?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have a question on the bottom of page 9. I think I already know the answer, but I should ask it because it was asked in confidential. It says at the bottom on the dot point, Council has received $1 million in bushfire recovery relief from the Bushfire Recovery Agency. This $1 million of funding will be expended on a targeted recovery program that will best benefit the community. Details of this program are being developed and will be reported to the March Council meeting. So my question to you through you, Madam Mayor, to the General Manager acting, what form of consultation is envisaged on this expenditure?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's been a number of internal workshops that's already been happening with key council staff. Those are continuing. We've got a community workshop planned for Willawarren for next week, Thursday being the 27th, I believe. So those workshops will contribute to the paper that will then come before council in March, and at that stage, obviously, council will have the ability to consider the recommendations and the content of that report.
Councillor
Thank you.
Morris.
Just a couple of questions in regard to the matters in progress, Madam Mayor.
Certainly.
We go to that document.
On page 14, item number 422, which the latest progress report indicates the Sustainability Officer has recently recruited who is beginning a forward program. Is there any indication as to when there should be some action with the community in regard to the climate change, or the suite of documents being generated?
Thank
Yeah.
you, Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, as Councillor Morris has pointed out, yes, we just had the officer commencing that role. That officer is developing the broader program around that role, which includes this particular recommendation from council. So I would expect in the near future we'll be in a position to outline what that broad program is to council and what it would entail.
So there's no dates determined at this stage?
No exact dates, no.
The next question, Madam Mayor, is on page 17 in relation to item 441. The progress comment dated the 9th of August says an extension of time for the gateway determination has been sought and received until the end of 2019, whereas the latest comment says that proponent has provided feedback on draft planning agreement. Has there been a further extension to the gateway beyond the end of 2019? And if not, will that put in jeopardy the execution of that gateway?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if there's further extensions required, which would seemingly would suggest from that, our staff would just be asking that as a matter of course if it's obviously not been resolved, which we're obviously beyond the end of 2019 now, so I'd expect that would have already occurred.
Madam Mayor? On the same document, Madam Mayor, on page 13, the review of dog off-leash areas. My question to the General Manager or whoever may be there, Madam Mayor, through you, the point 5 of the resolution says the Council champions a legislation across the Shire for the provision of assistance animals. How is that occurring and what does it look like, please?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, my understanding is that there was certainly some discussion at the time of the discussion of this item, which related particularly to the holiday parks. I think we sought some clarification at that time in terms of ability for assistance or for assistance animals to be present in holiday parks, and I think my understanding was that was satisfactorily resolved. And I guess beyond that, it would probably be an ongoing consideration as part of the wider review that's suggested in the other points.
Thank you.
Councillor Hawthorne, you still have your light on. You've got another question.
I'm trying to catch up, Madam Mayor, sorry. What? I'm jumping there. There's got to be a better way. On page 26, it's talking about facilitator for Macleay Valley Wellbeing Centre, and it says on the 6th of February 2020 that no further update as meeting planning disrupted by bushfire emergency demands on resources. When will this breaking the cycle resume, is my question.
Yep, through you, Madam Mayor. Conversations, as it's alluded to in the report there, have been occurring with the PHN. From an internal resourcing perspective, our internal resources have obviously been more focused more recently, as councillors are aware, on recovery efforts associated with the bushfire. We'll have a plan for that going forward. I think I'll come back with a more sort of detailed response in terms of the dates going forward, and we can cover that in a briefing.
Thank you very much. Again, on page 28, I have a question on the airport master plan. It states that it's been deferred to the 2020-21 financial year. Why is that the case?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Council's invested a significant amount of money and internal staff resources in terms of the development of the noise management plan and the fly enabler agreement. That's obviously taken those resources away from other commercial business activities as well. In terms of being able to allocate resources across that whole portfolio, and with budgetary constraints, the decision's been made to defer that piece of work until the next financial year. So it's still obviously on our forward program of work. It's just that we don't have the capacity to do it with the existing resources and with our available budget, given the work that's already happened in relation to the airport to date.
Thank you. On page 31 of the matters in progress,
Councillor, can
Madam
I
Mayor.
just interrupt for a moment? I'm going to have to call an adjournment for about 5 minutes, and I may have to get Councillor Patterson to take over.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. I call the meeting back to order, and I would like to notify you that the mayor has had to leave the meeting, and I will be continuing. I'm now the acting mayor, the deputy mayor, so we'll get back into where we let off. Councillor Orville, you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Acting Mayor. What do we call? Deputy Mayor. Mr. Deputy Mayor. The Chair. Okay, the Chair. Thank you, Chair. On page 31, we have renaming the Shire item 9.3, and the council staff number item 1 on that action or resolution says the council staff commence to engage with the community regarding a potential name change, naming options, and community support. My question to the staff, whoever's organising this, how is that number 1 being implemented at this time?
Yes, certainly. Look, number 1 has commenced implementation at this time, so we're currently working on finalising the engagement plan to engage with the community over the next 6 months up until the time that report will come back to council. That will involve a number of different types of engagement, and that will lead to a report to council at the June meeting as we've resolved. In parallel with that work, the work on number 2 is also occurring to make sure that we're aware of the full financial impacts of the name change. So we're certainly on track at this time to have a report back to council in June.
Yes. Is that financial impact that's being investigated also being assessed on the cost versus the chance of success with the Office of Local Government accepting it in comparison to what's happened with other councils?
It would be difficult to gauge what the chance of success with local government is. So what we're looking at there in option 2 is the costs is in what are going to be the costs which are incurred by council in changing signage, changing letterheads, changing branding, etc., so forth. And obviously the costs of the council poll. Once the poll is undertaken, though, I mean, it's probably difficult to gauge what would be the chance of success with the Office of Local Government. Yeah, that's a matter for their consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, will that also include cost of changes of signage and so forth?
You just said that.
Street signs, signs that are out and about in parks, reserves?
Yes, it is the intention that would be the full
Just
financial
specifically
impact.
mention that didn't
Yeah.
mention that infrastructure. That's all. I wanted to clarify that was going to be included.
Mr. Chair or Chair, this renaming the Shire is in conflict with the previous document in the previous item that says we will rename the Shire to Macleay Valley. I don't know whether staff is aware of that. It's still saying we are going to rename the Shire Macleay Valley, and yet this says no name has been chosen. So is that document going to be corrected?
I think the previous document you were referring to was the delivery program, which has already been exhibited and adopted, so we won't be updating the adopted delivery program.
Not even with a note on it saying that it's been all other names are being considered?
Look, I can say that other names certainly are being considered, but like I said, that delivery program was exhibited and adopted.
Okay, thank you.
You have more questions, Councillor Horville?
Yes, on page 38, and this is to do with the finances from the bushfire recovery, item 3 talks about the waiving of fees and charges for the periods outlined in the report. Those waiving of fees to any person affected by the bushfires is something we did back on the 28th of November last year. Subsequent to that, we've been given money. Will that money from the state or on bushfire recovery be able to use to give back the money that we've waived and support the finances of this council?
Through you, Chair. That's not a consideration at this stage. We are, as referred to in response to a previous question, we're pulling together that program in terms of how those grant streams will be spent and to the best benefit of the community. We're going through a process of determining that. The item that you've referred to there, particularly in relation to number 3, from my recollection, related to the waiving of interest on outstanding rates for those ratepayers who had properties destroyed. That wasn't a consideration that would be the funding that subsequently be received would be to reimburse those amounts.
My final question, if I may, and thank you for your perseverance, Mr. Chair. On page 41, there's a application to the Building Better Regions Fund, and it's to submit an application for the Macleay Valley Adventure Recreation Park. And it's currently in progress, according to progress. And my question is, will councillors be given the application for comment before submission? We're applying for funding.
Yeah, through you, Chair, that submission, my understanding, has already been lodged prior to Christmas.
Okay, so it doesn't say that there. But that in progress, it has been submitted. So it could have been amended. Thank you. Answer is no.
We put the motion, please, the recommendation.
So now, put the recommendation on the screen, 9.2. Voting. All in favour? All against? Carried. So now we're moving on to 9.4, Verge and Eden Street Sporting Complex. Through Councillor McGinn, seconded by Councillor Shields. Councillor Orby, you have a question on 9.
No, I'd like to speak to it, Mr. Chair, and I'm wondering whether the mover would like to speak to it first.
That is the usual process, I believe.
Councillor McGinn, would you like to speak to the motion first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to support this motion. It's been something that Council has been working with the community for over a period of time, and it would be, well, we know that it's a good plan, that the community is in support of it, and I think we should obviously be accepting the grant funding of $10 million for the redevelopment of the Verge and Eden Street Sporting Complex, in accordance with the master plan, and that the GM has the authority to sign that funding deed, and I'd be very surprised if anyone on council was going to vote against this recommendation.
Yeah, totally agree.
Mr. Chair, could I speak in favour of the motion, please?
Just have a question, Mr. Chairman, that's all. Only a question.
Well, can I have my answer first?
Councillor Orby, we usually take 1 for, 1 against. I'll just for the moment, I'll take Councillor Saul's question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, just a question, I can't remember. What is the cost to council for this project? Do we have any costs associated with this Verge Street redevelopment?
Through you, Director Fish.
Yeah, through the chair. As part of the application we were able to incorporate operational expenditure over a number of years into the application. So as it stands at the moment, the intention is that it would have been any funding towards this project would have been funds we were intending to spend on this location in any case. So we're not currently proposing any additional funding going to the project from council.
Thank you.
Who's put the motion?
Councillor Morris, who question?
Just a couple of questions. One is, the report says that the grant will provide us a good step forward in implementing the master plan. Will council be undertaking a workshop, and when will a program of works be coming out to indicate what within the master plan is going to be executed, what is not going to, or which within the master plan will not be executed, or is it all going to be executed? And obviously it's stated that there's discussions and it needs to be staged with the sporting clubs. So when will it become knowledge to the community as to what works will be done in what order and what items might miss out within the master plan?
Yeah, through the chair, there's, I guess you'd suggest a large number of the items that are identified in the master plan were part of the green application. So that was things related to further enhancements with lighting, the clubhouse, which is probably the main component of the project, additional cricket pitches, improvements to the field surface, and also improvements to the existing grandstand, and also the surrounding path that's identified on the master plan. Just off the top of my head from what was in the application. So as part of the development of the funding deed, a draft program has been developed which will be incorporated into the deed, and that obviously occurs over a number of years given the extent of the project. Some discussions have already occurred with certain sporting groups around particular aspects of the project, and that will be ongoing through the length of the project. Certainly, I guess with the final execution of the deed, we can potentially look at putting some additional information on our website in terms of exactly what's covered by the grant, and also prospective timeframes. That would certainly be information that would be of value to the community, and also to the sporting user groups.
Another quick question. You alluded to the fact that there were some of the operational costs of the sporting fields that are embodied within the grant application. With the $10 million being spent, is it envisaged, or what is envisaged as being the asset improvement value, and therefore what additional depreciation is council likely to incur as a result of the works?
Through the chair, so the increase in our our asset base would be largely related to the new items or new assets that will be created through the project. Those being the lighting, the clubhouse, and also the walking track around the perimeter would be the main issue or the main items. As to the annual depreciation impact, I'd need to take that on notice and seek some advice on what to quantify what that would be. But I guess in saying that, there's certainly been a well-identified need in terms of the project. There's amenity at this location is well and truly under-catered for at the moment, and is certainly needed.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move an amendment. The amendment is that we add a dot point 3, and that is that council includes a scope of works and anticipated plan or time frame for the works within council's website for community information. Because reading the master plan, you don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. You don't know which items are going to be done.
Such a large project.
Yeah. So I think the detail, it doesn't have to be precise. It can be updated and changed, but an indication to the community. And I would like to see that formally articulated, that be put on. I don't want it to come back to council. It can go straight on the council.
Have we got
website.
a seconder? That's all. If the mover must. Yeah, but informative on such a large project time frame to deliver.
And those timeframes might be reviewed on a quarterly basis and updated. But at least the community has an indication as to when they can expect particular components within that to be delivered.
Yep.
Which will be difficult, seeing that they haven't even received the funding deed yet. It's obviously very overarching at this point.
It takes 6 months to get it there. It takes 6 months to get it there. At least 4 weeks later.
Councillor Horville, you have a question?
No, I wanted to speak in favour of the motion and the amendment.
You could put that in a question, couldn't you?
No, I can still speak in favour of the motion, Mr. Chair. It's allowed.
Councillor Horville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item has been brought out, and I brought it out because I would like the people to know that Kempsey Shire is doing fantastic things for this shire, and the fact that we've already got lighting in place over there, we have the most modern LED lighting towers already erected, which is not part of this program. The area is a focus for Kempsey Shire. in improving the sporting facilities for our residents, and it's a fantastic thing. From the master plan, we can see that, and I had to print this out because the master plan was so small as one document, that when all this happens and the $10 million is spent, we will probably have, for the cricket players, 2 full-size turf wickets. For those people who don't play cricket, the turf wicket is much better than a concrete slab with pretend gabba grass on it. And so the cricketers should be rejoicing this is happening. The netball
Councillor
courts...
Horville, I just suspend the meeting just for a moment, please?
Yes.
If you'd like to continue, Councillor Hall.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and welcome back. Hope you're feeling better. I'm just talking, Madam Mayor, about the $10 million grant and the fact that it's a great asset that's coming to the Kempsey Shire and the Kempsey Shire residents. We have developments in the northeast area where the netball courts are, but there'll be more netball courts. There'll be grass surface courts, which is a real plus for younger players, especially playing on bitumen, not good for their young ankles. There's further car park expansion. And exercise tracks will be put in. The new pavilion east of Vincent Street will be a plus and be able to be used by all sporting people. It's fantastic. There's a proposed new netball building north-west of the courts. So again, pluses. Better toilet, club change facilities, and surprise, surprise, with the recent rains, they're talking. The master plan talks about putting in an irrigated system for watering the ground. So there's so much to accept and celebrate with this grant of $10 million, and I commend the staff to implementing it as soon as possible for the benefit of the Kempsey Shire people.
Director Fish.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Just, I guess, elaborating on point 3.
We've got some preferred wording
Some other wording.
as mover and amender, if it assists.
Can we just hear Director Fisher's
Yeah.
comments first?
Yeah, so just elaborating on point 3, typically our major projects would often have a page on the website, and I think certainly a project like this would absolutely be the case, which was alluded to in the previous response to the question from Councillor Morris. We also have a communications plan in development for the project at present, and obviously a lot of that would be around informing the community in terms of what the project entails, timeframes, and potential impacts on user groups through the project.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the comment that Councillor McGinn and I've come up with is to add to the end of it, full stop at the end, and then have this information be provided as determined and periodically reviewed if or as circumstances change. So that it's quite clear to the community that it may not all be there when it first goes up, and there may be changes due to circumstances beyond Council's control. Another bushfire, another flood, anything could change the timeframe and the scope of works to respond to issues as they arise. This information be provided as determined. Okay.
So it's been moved by Councillor McGinn, seconded by Councillor Shields. We have an amendment.
You were out, and that was why part 3 is there, which the amender, which the mover and mover agreed on.
The mover agrees. So there's no, it's not necessary for the amendment.
No,
No.
it's
No,
actually, yeah.
It's been incorporated
Incorporated as
into the
part of the
motion.
motion.
Yes, which is council working together well.
Thank you, councillor. Okay, I put the recommendation. Oh, Councillor Morris needs.
Oh, sorry, that was just me speaking with the addition.
I put the recommendation. All in favour of the recommendation. All against the recommendation. It's been carried. 9.5, I think, was. I think we now go to 10.1. 10.1, Councillor Morris. You haven't.
I would like to move the recommendation as typed in the you want me to read it out, or I have to read it out?
Sure. Oh, do we have a seconder?
It's on the screen.
It's on the screen. Do I have a seconder? It's been seconded. Do I have any dissent? There's no dissent. All in favour of the recommendation? All against the recommendation? The recommendation's been carried. Removal of library late fines. There is a Councillor Morris.
Again, I move as it's up on the screen. I'm sure all the councillors have read it.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Horville. Is there any dissent? I put the the notice of motion. And then the 10.3, there is. That was carried. Sorry, that was carried. We can all count. Mid-North Coast Joint Organisations Update Report. Just as an aside, this was going to happen anyway. I think Port Macquarie have already done theirs, and then as of course, normally what happened, Bellingen have done theirs, and we've had that discussion, and that's the normal proceed. Do I have a seconder? It's been moved.
I've moved it unless I withdraw it. I haven't withdrawn it.
And it hasn't been
So,
withdrawn.
Madam Mayor, can I have a question just on that? as
Yes,
we go
certainly.
through? Who's that representative for the Mid-North Coast Joint Organisation?
It's the mayor's.
Okay. So this was going to be done anyway. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And the reports come from the General Manager. The General Manager also sits on the joint organisation. They're not a voting delegate, but they are part of the joint organisation, and they
So-
have GMAC, and the reports are done by.
So do we actually need this motion? That's what my
Probably
question.
not, but it's there.
Okay.
Any dissent?
A question, Madam Mayor. if I may.
Question?
In the attachment, the Bellingen Shire Council report, on the first page of that, or no, it's page 3 of the document. And it's the second last dot point, talks about the commissioning of the Centre for Local Government at the University of Technology, Sydney, to design and conduct values-based social research across the Mid-North Coast Joint Organisation region to find out what matters most to our individual communities and equally what matters across the region. Has that report been given to the organisation yet, and will it be available for all councillors at all of the organisations?
I believe it's already on their website and has been for some time, Councillor. The joint organisations have their own website.
Yes.
And I think it has also been referenced at council here at one stage. It was done was before the fires, probably 5 months ago. 5 months ago. So it's available to the public.
Right, so it's available and I'll be able to look at it. Thank you,
Yes,
Madam Mayor.
certainly you can. All in favour of the recommendation, all against the recommendation has been carried. Questions on notice? Councillor Patterson.
None, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor McGinn. Councillor Morris.
I do have these typed out. My internet is not working. I'm on the computer, so I couldn't send them here. Thank you. Question 1. Given that council considered the installation of photovoltaic PV cells for the civic sector and the civic centre...
Microphone.
Given that Council considered the installation of photovoltaic PV cells in the Civic Centre when the Civic Centre roof was replaced, as confirmed by a response to my question for next meeting 1 to Council of the 18th of February, what size PV systems were investigated? What was the cost involved for each system, if more than one size investigated? And what was the likely future returns for each system investigated? Question 1. As a follow-up to my question on Notice 13 to Council on the 18th of February, being Council resolved to host a meeting of all concerned parties in relation to mental health, crime and other social issues in the Valley at its meeting on the 20th of November 2018, when is this meeting likely to occur, given that the response was that an update has been provided in matters in progress attached to the quarterly report, which reads no further update as meeting planning disrupted by bushfire emergency demands on resources? When is it anticipated that resources will be available to progress this matter? That's all I've got, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Councillor Shields? Yeah. Councillor Hawthorne?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have some questions, and these are questions that have been raised with me by members of the community, so I'll continue with them. First question, when will the amenities block be constructed at Crescent Head Pool? Noting that Armidale and the University of New England are in the Macleay Valley, whilst Crescent Head and Cundabug are not in the Macleay Valley, would it be possible to ascertain from the Mayor, a member and chairperson of the Country Universities Centre Macleay Valley Limited, the information on whether any other names were considered before finally designating it the Country Universities Centre Macleay Valley Limited, and if so, what were they? When a question on notice asks for a specific yes or no, dollar amounts, date or number, should the answer contain such precise details? Would Council approach the Country University Centre Macleay Valley Limited and ask if they are expecting enrolments of students from the Macleay Valley towns of Armidale, population estimated at 24,504, Guyra with 1,983, Walker 1,451 and Uralla 2,754? If yes, would the reply be provided to councillors? Will councillors be provided with the written legal advice that a sign is sufficient duty of care in preventing risky behaviour by people jumping off what appears, to some, a provided jumping platform on the Back Creek Bridge at South West Rocks, and that there is no legal liability to council for any injury or death? Will council check that the amenities block at Kempsey Shire Council's Kempsey District Sale Yards is correctly connected to the council sewerage system? With reference to answer to Councillor Horville's question on Notice 1 for the agenda of February Council 2020, which person or organisation and when designated that the now defunct Back Creek Bridge at South West Rocks has heritage value? Would Council approach the Country University Centre Macleay Valley Limited and ask if they would allow enrolments of students living outside the Macleay Valley, such as Crescent Head and Cundabug? If yes, would the reply be provided to councillors? Finally, with reference to Councillor Patterson's question on notice, number 2, agenda of February Council 2020, with the answer mentioning 5 new jobs and 15 new jobs for young people at Riverside Movies, are those full-time or casual jobs? If casual, what would be the full-time equivalent?
Councillor Saul?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is written out prior to last night's briefing, but can Council investigate the landslip on the Russell Avenue embankment in Smithtown? Question 2, what is the status of the proposed upgrades for Back Creek South West Rocks pertaining to the cleaning tables, boat ramp and pontoon lighting? I've got them written down to give to you when it's done. And lastly, is the Kempsey Pool chairlift available for use by wheelchair users? Thank you again.
Thank you, councillors. We now go into, do I have a notice of motion, recommendation to go into confidential?
Procedural motion, Madam Mayor. Could we go to morning tea first?
It's not even 10:15. I'll put that procedural motion.
Then people can leave. That's the point.
They may want to, sorry? They may want to know what the recommendation is when it comes back, which is what we normally do. There is a procedural motion. I put the procedural motion that we move for morning tea now. You do? Okay. All righty, we'll go to morning tea now. Thank you.
Oh, have we? Streams back on. Oh, for the, to remove. Yes, to take the resolution. Take the resolution.
So can we need to resolve to go into confidential. Can I have a mover, please? It's been moved by Councillor, been moved by Councillor Morris and seconded by Councillor Saul. Thank you. We have a clear gallery, which back in open council, and the resolution has gone up of what was agreed at the confidential meeting, and that concludes the February meeting of council. Thank you, councillors. Thank you.